everyone, HardlyBriefDan here with our August Game of the Month series. This is Canada Assault, and this is episode 9. In the last episode, we started playing around with some stopwatches and timers, and we're going to continue working on that. There's one thing I didn't get to touch on last time, which was enemy spawning and kind of controlling the rate at which we spawn enemies. There's also a few things I wanted to change, but I'll do a quick recap and kind of go over what we did last time. So we've added a few things. We added a score, a game timer, and health. Everything still works the same. We're still creating ammo and bullets and stuff, and we're keeping track of the shots fired. We're also looking at our score, and as you can see, it's increasing. And the way we have it set up right now is our score increases every 5 seconds. And then our health, when our health gets below a certain amount, we increase our health by every 3 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and stop playing the game. And you can see we've added these public variables over here. The time is in seconds, or milliseconds. That's why you see 5,000 and 3,000. So I'm actually going to go ahead and decrease this time to 3,000. Because I think that's actually... if you see score increasing faster, it's a little more fun. I'm actually going to set this back. I'm going to set score down to 200 or 2,000. So it's pretty fast. I'm keeping the max health at 1,000, and our increased health time, basically every 3 seconds we gain 20 health if we're able to. And I'm going to go ahead and open up our mono-developed script that we worked on last time, our game stats script here. And this is where we're keeping track of our current health, our current game score and stuff, and we're doing the timer analysis. Well, I like this. However, I think two things don't need to be in here, and that's health and enemy. Mainly the enemy timer, and we're actually going to take that out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that from that. I'm going to add it to our play manager, and I'm going to go ahead, I guess, and I'll leave our health timer in here for now. I don't really like it. I think I want to swap our health, because it is a stat, but it's not stat that I really need to care about. It doesn't really pertain to core gameplay. But again, I don't know. It does pertain, it does matter for gameplay. So we might end up moving that, but I am going to move the enemy timer. I do want to make this public game timer a static variable. This is going to allow me to access this variable in our game stat script, because this is where, for now, we're going to have all the GUI options. I want to get rid of this on GUI function in our gameplay manager, because we don't need it right now. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to our on GUI here. Actual game time is now going to come from... Oh, you know what? I don't want the timer to be static. I want the actual game time. It is static already. See? I already thought ahead. I didn't even notice that. So we're actually going to go ahead and grab this double variable here. So go to game stats, and I'm going to... In our game stats, you're going to go gameplay manager dot actual game time. And what this is doing, added another one. What this is doing is it's allowing us to access this actual game time variable that's in our gameplay manager script, and you can see that here. The public meaning it's accessible like that, a static meaning it's the only one in the whole instance, or in the whole scene, the entire scene. That's what static means. Public means it's accessible outside the script. So we're calling that script, say, hey, gameplay manager, I want this variable, and that's what that does. So I'm going to control S to save. You should see in Unity, it should show up here, the same thing. It's doing the time. We're getting, our score is increasing. Our health's not decreasing, obviously, because we're not getting hit. But the next thing I want to talk about in our gameplay manager here is our enemy timer. And I'm not really sure how I want to do this. Basically, we're going to be doing the same things with the start timer. So I guess we can go ahead and start that. We'll go enemy timer dot is equal to a new system dot diagnostics dot stopwatch, and then I guess we'll just go ahead and start it. Dot start. So I had a couple ideas, and one of them, I guess, is to spawn enemies in a certain time interval, so like every 5 seconds we spawn an enemy, and then we just increase that spawn count based on overall game time. So if game time, maybe every 20 seconds of game time we'll just add another enemy, and then after a certain point, we'll start adding 4 enemies or something. So that we're going to make that all public, so it's like we can play around with it, and hopefully that works. So what we'll do is kind of like how we did over here in the update function, where we said, if this is equal to a certain amount, then we're going to go ahead and do something. So I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this score timer.milliseconds thing from our update function in game stats. I'm going to go ahead and paste it in our update function. Actually, we're going to go ahead and create a private function. We'll go private void. Then we're going to call this enemy timer. We'll call it enemy timer. I probably will change that once we kind of make it a little more descriptive. Go ahead and copy the enemy timer variable and replace score timer with it, because we don't want that. We don't want add score based on time. And then increase time amount. So we're going to go ahead and make a public variable here up at the top. We're going to call it public. It's going to be integer, and we're going to call it increase. We'll call it enemy spawn timer. Okay, I'm going to leave it up to the public, or so the inspector can edit it. So copy that, replace enemy spawn timer. Control S to save, and jump into Unity, and we should see on our gameplay manager here we have an enemy spawn timer. Perfect. So what we're going to do now is when this happens, we're just going to test it. We're going to do a debug.log. Before we get too much farther, we're going to spawn enemy. You don't want to ever add tons and tons of code unless you're really comfortable with doing that. It's easier to add little bits of code and then test it out. So we're going to go Control S to save. I'm going to go ahead and load or copy and paste our enemy timer function into our update function, so it's called every frame, and basically we're just going to continually check it, and once it happens we're going to spawn the enemy and set our timer again. And for now I guess we're going to do a spawn an enemy every 2 seconds, so we'll go 2,000, 20,000, 2,000. Going to go ahead and press play, and we should see up here spawn an enemy. Right, 4 seconds. Looks like it only did it once. See? Something happened. Okay, so we spawned enemy timer. We stopped our enemy timer and we reset it. So why are we not calling this again? Let's figure out what's going on. Okay, so I never start the timer again. So under our if statement, see, it's good that we tested. So under the if statement here, we're going to go enemy timer dot start. Just like we did last time. I already forgot, even though the video was released a couple of days ago. So now we're going to spawn our enemy. We're going to stop the clock. Actually, yeah, we're going to stop the clock. We're going to reset the clock, and we're going to start it up again. So Control S to save, jump back into Unity, and we should see 2 seconds, we can spawn enemy. 4 seconds, right around there, spawn enemy. Spawn enemy. Right? Yep. So, because there is going to be an extremely slight delay, eventually it won't be every 2 seconds. I mean, it's still going to be every 2 seconds, but it's not going to be like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, because eventually over time it's going to change. So this might be too fast, but that's okay. I just wanted to test it out. We're going to go ahead and set this to 5 seconds. And what we can say is every 5 seconds we're going to go ahead and spawn, and we're spawning an enemy. Well, that's not all we want, because that's easy, but we want it to get harder. As time goes on, we want it to increase. So we're going to say we're going to create a private void function, and we're going to say call this enemy. We're going to call it decide enemy spawn value. If you come up with a better function method name, you can definitely use it. But basically, what this function is going to handle, or this method is going to handle, it's going to look at our game timer, and basically, if it's we're going to look to see if it's divisible by like 20. Oh, well, maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe what we'll do. I know what we'll do. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do another way. Basically, if I had done the divisible thing again, we're going to run into the same timer issue that we ran in last video with this score timer and health timer, where it's not always going to be divisible by 20 or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually keep track of our enemy count. And we're going to do this in our game stats. Oh, we're going to create a public int static int. We'll go ahead and do it in our gameplay manager because that's where we want it. So go ahead and make a public static int, and we're going to call it enemy number of enemies spawned. And initially, we're going to go ahead and start this guy at 0. And I'm actually going to put this in our awake function. We want our timers going first. I mean, in our start function. We want our timers going first. So we're going to set enemies, number of zeros, enemies equal to 0 spawned. And as soon as we spawn one, so we're going to set, as soon as we spawn one, we want to always increase this. So we're going to go number of enemies spawned plus equals 1. So this is going to add 1 to itself. And then in our game stats, we're going to go ahead and create a GUI label over here. And we're going to go ahead and watch this. We want to make sure, you know, that we're actually seeing it. So we're going to go enemy. I just went ahead and copied paste this actual game time and changed actual game time to number of enemies spawn. I'm going to go ahead and change the location of this to 15 below that, so it's 70. Going to control S to save. Actually, we don't want this called game time. We want to go enemies spawn. I'm going to go ahead and make it just a little longer so that hopefully it's long enough so we can see it all. Control S to save, jump into Unity. So now actually I want to change our enemy spawn timer to 2000. So now we should see every 2 seconds spawn an enemy, spawn an enemy, spawn an enemy. You know, and now we can see that these are the enemies spawning. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at how many we've spawned, and then we're going to say, you know, after 30 or you know, after 10, we're going to go ahead and increase this the count of enemies spawning, if you will. So there's one thing I want to add, and when the game starts right away, we want to have one enemy. We're going to actually instantiate an enemy at the start. So make that 1 instead of 0, and go ahead and go back into Unity and open up the cannon control script here. And where we have the cannon mouse control, go ahead and open that up. And if you remember, we added this jet fighter tag in this spawn point, this private spawn point. Go ahead and copy that. You can actually go ahead and cut that and add it to our gameplay manager up here at the. Okay, go back into mouse control. We're gonna have a few things we need to fix. So go ahead and cut the spawn point, paste that in our start function. In our gameplay manager start function, so we can access it. Go ahead and grab our instantiate over here. We're going to cut that gameplay manager, and I'm going to paste this in our start function. And then that should be it. I'm going to go ahead and erase the mouse button here, the right mouse button click, because we don't want that anymore. We're done with that, basically. So what we've done is basically I've copied our I've copied the game object variable in our transform where we're going to be spawning the jet fighters in this case. And I've went ahead and I placed it in our start function here, where we're going to get the spawn point. We're looking at the game object with the tag of called spawn point, and we're getting its transform. And then we're going to instantiate one, and we're going to add that to our number of enemies spawned. And that's going to happen at the start. And then down here where we say spawn enemy, we're actually going to spawn another one. But before we do that, I want to make sure this start function works. So go ahead and go back into Unity. Look at our gameplay manager, and you can see we have a jet fighter game object. You remember that prefab we made? I'm going to go ahead and grab that. It's under enemies. It's a plane, jet fighter, and jet fighter. We can look, takes ammo. It already has that all ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and press play, and we should see an enemy spawn, and we do. Look at that. It's dropping bombs and everything. So we're still spawning enemies super fast, but you don't see them yet because it's not on the screen. But that's okay. We're making progress. And let's see, where was that? Gameplay manager. We are going to go ahead and now grab this instantiate function, little code up here under enemy spawn or spawn enemy debug statement. Go ahead and control paste the instantiate function, and we're going to be able to actually see that working. So control to save, go into Unity, and we should see a constant. Don't mind the error we're getting up top. We'll have to fix that when we go back to working with enemies. But go ahead and press play, and we should see enemies spawning. There we go. Look at that. So we have constant enemy spawning. Now there's a few things that you might think are weird. One, the spawn point is static. It's spawning the same exact spot. The enemy isn't doing any damage. We can't fire at the enemy. Yeah, I mean we can fire, but it's not going to hit the enemy. And that's okay for now. And we're still getting this missing reference exception. But basically we have spawning working. And it's pretty fast. Which is okay. I think at the start though it should be a little slower, and what we can actually do is work on creating a function where this enemy spawn timer varies between 3,000 to 5,000 or something. So it's not always we'll create a random variable, and it's not always the same time, because that creates a little variability. It's not always the same experience, and we'll go ahead and do that now. So go ahead and do the enemy timer. And we'll go ahead and do enemy timer. We're going to set that equal, or enemy spawn timer, excuse me, enemy spawn timer. Go ahead and set that equal to random.range, and we're going to go ahead and do 0, or we'll do our, I'm going to go ahead and make a couple private variables. Go ahead and create 2 private variables. We're going to do int, and we're going to do minimum. We'll make them public, actually. Go ahead and do public int min spawn time, and then we'll go public int min or max spawn time. I'm going to go ahead and cut these two, and I'm going to paste them above our enemy timer, because we don't really need to know what the enemy timer is, because we're not going to manually set that for now. But we're going to go ahead and do in this random.range, go ahead and do min spawn time, and then we'll go do comma max spawn time. Are we getting unknown resolved error? What is our error we have here? That's weird. I'm not sure why random.range is doing that. Is an ambiguous. I'm trying to figure out. Random is an ambiguous reference between Unity. Okay. So I guess we'll go, just to make sure it's clear, Unity engine.random. There we go. Okay, so basically the editor could not figure out what this random was, and that's probably because we're including system here. So go ahead and just type in Unity engine.random.range, and it will do the correct one that we want. Go ahead and press play, or go ahead and in Unity. If you click our gameplay manager, you can see our new spawn times, and we're going to go ahead and set the minimum to 2,000, and then we're going to go ahead and set the max. I'm going to say 5 seconds, so 5,000. Remember that those are in milliseconds. Go ahead and press play, and you can see we're generating tons, and that's because it's in the update function, which is okay, but basically we only need it to do it every, So basically what I'm talking about here is that we have our enemy timer in our update function, right? And so it's going to, every time we spawn an enemy, basically we want to create one time, use it, and then wait that amount of time, and then spawn again, right? So I guess it's doing that. It's just that it's continually running this. So we want to actually cut this. We will only want to do this get our new timer, spawn timer after we spawn. So go ahead and Control S to save, and I'll kind of explain it. We're going to go ahead and set our first spawn timer at 2 seconds. So the first enemy is going to spawn at 2 seconds, and then it's going to create a new random time, and we're only going to generate a random spawn time after every timer runs. So instead of every frame, that just takes a lot of memory. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's useless. So here we only generated one, if you can see, and now we're going to create another one. We should. Yep. So now at 4 seconds we should get another enemy. I think that's working. Seems like it's going a little faster. So let's see, 2.9. Try to think. There is some variability to it. Oh yeah, definitely. Okay, good. So it's working. We still have some exceptions up here. Again, those are with the jet fighter. But basically what we've done today is we've added a random enemy spawn event. And there's a few things I would like to add to it. Basically, I want to change the spawn point. So we're going to have the spawn. We'll add a script to the spawn point where the spawn point just moves up and down every once in a while. And basically it'll just kind of vary where the enemy spawns. And that will, again, it'll add some replayability, and it won't be the same every time you play it. But hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you understand how all this works. If you don't, please leave a comment, and I'll try to explain the best I can. Maybe you run into a problem on your version of our game so far, and I can try to help you. Please like, subscribe, comment. I have a Twitch channel I just created. I'm going to be live streaming this weekend, so join me for that. Otherwise, that's all I got for this video. In the next video, we'll go ahead and continue working on our enemies, and hopefully get some more gameplay up and running very soon. I'll talk to you guys next time.